Alright. So now... Ash. The character that I've actually played the most, but that's because I found a build that could actually do most of the work for me, and they have nerfed it a lot, to the point where I just don't know if I can actually play her as much. So I found a build where basically I relied on ability power as well as Bob and Dynamite to do the work. Now, there was also a coach gun build that people were running that could be able to have it where the coach gun applied burning, which I'm trying to incorporate now, but unfortunately, what used to be good is not as good anymore. So you see this? This used to say 30% reduced damage. Now, at one point it was actually 65%, and then they buffed it to 30%, but now they've nerfed it back down to 70%. Ugh. And that's not even the worst part. They nerfed Bob Jr. Bob Jr. used to be able to stay out for 20 seconds. It was amazing, especially when you buffed ability power, because more ability power meant Bob did more damage. And they've nerfed his duration from 20 seconds to 10 seconds. So they've killed Bob Jr. So the build I used to run was Bob Jr. and then Out with a Bang, multi-munitions, and then Partners in Crime. Because, you know, you could heal Bob and he could heal you, and, you know, at that point I had lots of ability power, which meant I was able to get lots of, you know, damage as well as ultimate charge, because it costs 50% less ultimate charge, but you're also able to just get a lot and do a lot because of these. Plus, you had some other really great stuff, such as 40% more explosion radius from the dynamite. So basically, my build used to be this. And then I would grab the explosion radius, ability, you know, and then truly try to buff the ability power. This was another one here you could get where you dealt more damage to burning enemies. Damage dealt would grant more ultimate charge. If they had a Kiriko and they could cleanse your burns, I would also grab this as well. And because I was also using Bob, this was another one that was good to get, was this one right here, Bob Wire Defense, where when Bob finished charging, he would also have 300 armor, plus it would give Ash 50 health and 25 armor, so it was good for survivability, not to mention make Bob even tankier. I basically never touched the weapon tree as Ash because I can't aim, so I couldn't do anything with the Viper. Like I said, I was just letting the dynamite do all the work. Also, I would then get things like Cyber Venom, because while they are burning, they are taking healing reduction. Ooh, guys, I'm telling you, it was when all the dynamite was going off and just causing all that burning, it was beautiful. It was a sight to behold. And then you could get things such as Catalytic Crystal, which would give you 100%, and then you would be able to have it grant you more ultimate charge. So then you could be able to do this.
Do something.
So of course, there's Bob Jr. And as you can see, even though, as it says, the power says that Bob has not only reduced life, but he also does reduced attack speed, like, it would still be fine.
Do something.
Because even though he's attacking slower, because I have more ability power, he's actually doing quite a bit more damage. Another possible option you could get as an item here, if you say didn't want to go ahead and do this right here, you could also get this, Liquid Nitrogen, because this could also... the ability damage would also make them slower. But look at the explosion radius. The sticky bombs. Look at those explosions. Look at how big those explosions are. So you'd be able to put that in the middle of a team and then have it blow up, lava everywhere, and then 3 more would drop, and then more explosions. They're all taking, you know, burning damage. It would just be fantastic, because I could just toss out the dynamite and then just let the dynamite do all the work, and then I could just wait until I had enough to get Bob out.
Bob, Do something! Radneck over the herd.
It would be wonderful. And that's how I was able to make Elite as a damage, basically using Bob and the Dynamite. And unfortunately, it has been nerfed. So because Bob has been nerfed, I think what I would probably be doing if I'm going to play Ashe still is instead go for Incendiary Blast and Double Barreled, so that you can have an extra charge of the Coach Gun, and of course it's doing the extra burning damage. So that way you can hopefully get enough burning damage from both the Coach Gun and the Dynamite to do enough, but I think the days of using Bob Jr. might be over. I think Blizzard just killed Bob Jr., sadly. Cassidy. Oh boy. Oh my goodness. Cassidy is one of those characters I have just grown to hate facing as a tank, because he has some builds that just melt you. Mainly a right-click build, a Fan the Hammer build, which it used to be. Fan the Hammer was considered it was like a shameful thing to do. Like, how dare you use your right click? Some people would make videos about that, like, the only way, a good way to play Cassie's with your left click to show that you actually have aim and skill. And if you use your right click, you clearly have no skill and, all that stuff. You know how elitist this community can get. There are some things here, such as being able to make Deadeye really, really good, such as it slows everybody that's visible to your Deadeye, making them getting out of the way a lot harder. You gain health and movement speed, which can be pretty good. But usually people have kind of gravitated towards ones that make your combat roll and your Peacekeeper really strong. There are, of course, also ways to only make you reload faster, but that wasn't necessarily the thing. What they would be doing was doing lifesteal along with ways to not only increase how much damage it does, but also increasing the amount of ammo. Like, you would get things that would increase your ammo, which, combining that with your right click and being able to combat roll and then right click again, it was like absolutely kind of insane. And there were also some other things that would allow you to just keep on, like this right here, would add 20% of max ammo as extra ammo. And there was something else I recall. Also, eliminations would get you extra cash. I'm trying to remember. Also, there's this one where the explosion radius of flashbang is increased. But there was like another way you could be able to, like, you'd also do more damage to enemies in the damage roll. But you could have, like, say 10 here and then right click, combat roll, right click again. I mean, as a tank, as a Reinhardt, your shield and your health bar would just be gone. And trust me when I say, like, there would be ways where they could be able to really, really buff this by the late game with some other certain powers and such that I haven't chosen. You know, like right here, eliminating an enemy with a critical hit would grant you an extra ammo for the round up to 4. So, yeah. Cass has been an absolute menace in Stadium, especially for tanks. Freya has been a menace to everybody ever since she entered in the mid-season. Oh, man. I think I've played her once. Didn't need to get a win. I haven't touched her again. I think they have nerfed her, but I feel like they still need to nerf her. Because she is still just a mess. She's also constantly getting banned in ranked, which says everything you need to know. If a character is constantly getting banned, you probably need to nerf them. Because, yeah. So, honestly, I don't really have that much to say about Freya, because I've played her, like, just once, and I didn't have any desire to go, play her again. Like, there were some things about her kit in Stadium and such that I like, such as being able to increase the height of your updraft to give yourself more mobility, more distance for your quick dash, more ammo, and being able to, like, dash and reset the charges of your cooldown, and your eliminations reset the charges, which also resets your take aim. Like, there's a lot of stuff that just makes Freya an absolute menace in this mode. Ugh. Genji. Man, I've seen some Genji. I ran to a Genji that was doing a hidden blade build, like a melee build, but he also picked a lot of tanky items. Like, he picked things such as Gloom Gauntlet and Phantasmic Flux, the Conduit, the reduction. Like, he basically took a lot of tanky stuff, made himself super tanky, and then just allowed, like, he would just go in and just do the quick melee, and it would just do a lot of damage. And it was infuriating to play against. Like, I've also played a couple of games. I had one decent highlight with him. There's like one here that allows you to be able to increase the duration of your Dragon Blade by another 4 seconds, which you can really buff up with things like Dragon's Breath to have it launch the projectile, which I'm sure a lot of you recall seeing that in the trailer for Overwatch 2 when it was first announced, right? It feels like a lot of the stuff that they promised us and didn't follow through on, they've kind of brought over into this mode. It's not quite what they promised, but it's sort of. Like, I guess you could probably call it the best they could do to appease? I don't know. However you want to perceive it, that's how I'm kind of looking at it. That this is their way of trying to bring what they told us they were going to do, and that, like, here, it's not quite what we said, but it's the closest we've come up with. Yeah. And it's a shame because I, of course, have one of those super rare skins for Genji that I love, I wish it could show off more if I was just a better Genji. Like, I've tried and it's just been bad. Like, I've even tried some tanky builds to be more survivable, and it just doesn't pan out because I'm just not doing enough damage. So then I try more damage stuff and it doesn't pan out because I die a lot. And it's not just Genji, Reaper is also the same way. Now, Reaper has been a funny one because there's a shotgun build like with revolving rune such that can be really strong if you go for the weapon power, but then there's also been some comedic stuff involving ability power Reaper, which has been about Death Blossom, as well as another power such as this, that when you use Shadow Step, you actually cast Death Blossom again for a second and a half with reduced damage. So then you would have people doing Shadow Step like all the time, just right next to the enemy team, just so they could get a free mini Death Blossom in. And if you have lots of ability power, it of course would do more damage. It became kind of a gag and a meme about ability power Reaper. It became kind of like the joke. Like, you would just say ability power Reaper, and that was the punchline. It became quite amusing. Like, there's potential, but if you had something like a Genji or an Orisa with deflect, you would just kill yourself at that point, because they would just deflect it back at you and you would die. So there was just not much point to actually do it. So I've tried going with a more tanky Reaper build, such as like getting like some of these like tanky items, but then I end up not doing as much damage, and then I've had teammates get upset at me like, Reaper, why aren't you going to their backline and picking them off like you're supposed to? Like, the idea that I was trying to do was that because I'm not very good at dealing damage to him, maybe I can just be more tanky and be in the front line with my tank and just, do damage that way, but that's not what your teammates want you to do when you play a certain character like Reaper, unfortunately, so yeah. So let's just say I've wanted to try and make Reaper work, but I've had some struggles. Soldier! So here's the funny thing. One of his most popular powers has been removed for the moment. It was called Chain Gun. Basically, the more you would do damage with your weapon here, it would actually stack the damage up to 100 times. You could actually see the stacks next to your left shift icon there on the bottom right.
Man on a mission. Stay out of my way.
But yeah, you could combine it with some other powers and items here that would really buff up your pulse rifle. Both in terms of attack speed as well as the amount of ammo that you could actually have, as well as, of course, how much damage it does. And I guess it was not doing what it was intended because it's been removed for the time being. Now, there was actually a funny build that emerged called the Biotic Field Sprint build, which was an ability power that focused on putting your biotic field down and sprinting around. Because you could not only have it do more healing, but you could also have it where, with a power like, say, back off, you're actually doing damage as well. So it was actually really comical to see some soldiers just sprint around all the time. By the way, if you put your man on the run and you sprint, you actually increase the amount of maximum ammo you could have. So you could have like over 100 rounds in a clip as soldier. it could actually get really, really amusing. Mei. Oh gosh, Mei. I have joked that people who play Mei are just evil people. I say that very jokingly, but that's how it feels sometimes, because, well, even since the days since Overwatch 1, Mei was considered the character that you would play if you were trying to just be the absolute worst troll to other people. Like, she was just, like, an absolute menace. Not just the whole meme of her killing you and then launching her corpse up into space with her ice wall, but man, in this mode, oh my goodness. For one thing, she can grab Colder, which turns her ice block into this. So she can roll around and knock you around and do extra damage. Oh man. She can also be able to have it where when you cast that, it does a little mini blizzard, and yeah. Ugh, Mei is a menace. She is an absolute mess to play against in Stadium, especially if you're playing, say, a Reinhardt, and of course, she just puts the wall up and you're just trapped and you're just killed because you're separated from your team. Playing against good Mei players is such an annoying time. Oh, I can't stand it. And then it just leaves the newest added, Junkrat. So, I've played Junkrat a couple times. He doesn't feel quite finished to me. I'm finding a lack of synergy when it comes to his possible builds. You know, I may have to just wait and see if anyone else comes up with some possible stuff here. Like, I suppose there could be a build here involving the frag launcher, but like, if you're wanting to, say, do a mine build or a trap build, I suppose it's possible. Or even a total mayhem build. This one seems amusing. Like, you do total mayhem, and it just drops a whole bunch of additional bombs. But there is some interesting stuff here, such as the health of your steel trap is increased. The cooldown is refunded if it's destroyed. This one is pretty cool. The throw distance is enhanced by 50%, and people who get trapped in it get burning damage for a few seconds. So there are some cool, interesting items you can have here. This one is a little confusing, though. If the mine is 5 meters above the ground, when detonate, increase the radius by 25%, which I'm just like, well, if you're tossing at somebody like right here, no, I'm sorry, wrong button, like right here, that's not really 5 meters off the ground, is it? Now, if it's up here, then yeah, it's going to be bigger, but you're not really trying to do that. You're trying to just toss it in their face and then blow it up. That's how you always basically do it as Junkrat, unless you're trying to use these to launch yourself in the air, which there are powers for that. Launching yourself with a mine detonates a mine wherever you land. So if you want to hop around a bit more, you can do that. But, I don't know, Junkrat just feels like he needs a bit more work. He also seems a little buggy because you'll notice here, when you have to reload, on other characters when you have to reload, let me go ahead and swap to Soldier just for a moment to show you guys. When you have to reload your weapon in third person, you see that circle? That lets you know that you're reloading. There's nothing there for Junkrat right now if you have to reload. There's nothing indicating that your weapon is now reloaded. So it feels like Junkrat is a little buggy at the moment, and that his items and powers are not quite done yet, that they need a bit more work on them to give them more synergy to actually come up with decent builds. That's just my initial impressions. I could be very wrong on this, but that's just been my initial impression of Junkrat in the couple of matches I've played with him so far. Is that I want, of course, I love playing Junkrat. I have, quite a few hours on him. He's been one of my favorite DPS to play in the game alongside Torbjorn. But it feels like Junkrat needs a bit more work. So those are the DPS in Stadium. When we come back, we'll be looking at the healers. Stay tuned.